Meta Platforms continues to show why it is one of the top players in the AI market right now. About a week ago, the company did announce some of their semi-custom semiconductor hardware that the company is designing for their infrastructure that is focused on this age of AI. So in today's episode, what I want to do is take a closer look at how big tech is kind of really going into this movement of designing their own chips. More importantly, the kind of concept of Meta and what they released. And finally, I want to take a closer look at how this can impact certain semiconductor companies like Nvidia, and how there might be some other semiconductor companies that investors might want to take a closer look at as big tech continues to invest in this kind of silicon design machine. So let's get started. So we can see Meta Platforms, as you guys all know, and if you guys follow the channel, a company we talk a lot about here. Year to date, the stock is up over 110% as they continue to show that, hey, their AI movement was the great decision for them. We are seeing this kind of AI movement right now, especially after Nvidia, another highly followed company here, reported amazing earnings with 172% year to date. So like I mentioned, right now we are seeing a lot of big tech kind of designing their own chips to help with the inference of AI. And in the inference of AI, to pretty much go on very simple terms, is when you kind of give it an input, the inference is what helps it kind of give you an output based on the training it has done previously, right? So it's a very important concept, especially right now with this kind of generative AI push that we are seeing. We are seeing a lot of big tech do kind of create their own chips to help with the cost of it. For example, Amazon's AWS, they do have the Inferentia, which is an inference chip, again, accelerated to help during that concept.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
We have also seen Google create their own chip, the Tensor Processing Unit, which helps with certain machine learning workloads. And now we are seeing some new releases from Meta Platforms. So like I mentioned, on May 18th, Meta kind of announced how they're pushing forward into their AI infrastructure. But first, obviously, they start off by saying that AI has been a very important step for them for many years, right? This is not something that's brand new to them. They have helped with the development of PyTorch, a huge kind of AI framework that is used right now. They also have this supercomputer that is used for AI research, and now they are advancing their infrastructure with exciting new ways. They kind of mentioned a few chips here. The first chip that they mentioned is MTIA, which I believe it's Meta's training and inference accelerator, and this is going to be the first generation of it. So obviously throughout the years they're going to continue to develop products like this. And they mentioned that, hey, they found GPUs were not always optimal for running Meta specific recommendation workloads at the level of efficiency required at their scales. So they had to go and create a semiconductor solution that works specifically for their workloads. And the reason they do this, right, is because if you're able to create a chip where you know exactly what you needed, you're going to make it more efficient, more power efficiency in the long term, be able to provide results at a faster rate, at a cheaper rate, and also be able to kind of be able to dictate how the chip is made. So we are seeing a lot of big techs do this. So this is the first chip. The second chip that they announced was the MSVP, and this is a chip that is meant to be used for processing video for video on demand and live streaming. And they do mention that right now in Meta, this is something that is insane. Today's demand for video content is greater than ever, and emerging use cases such as generative AI content means that demand on video infrastructures are only going to intensify. They do mention that GPUs and even general process CPUs are capable of obviously handling video processing, but they believe that dedicated hardware is the best solution in terms of compute power and efficiency. And obviously eventually this is going to help with things like AI generated content, as well as augmented reality and virtual reality content in the metaverse. For example, they mentioned that the main reason they had to do this is on Facebook alone, people spent 50% of their time on the app watching videos, and there's roughly 4 billion views per day on Facebook alone. So obviously, if you're getting that kind of traction on their platform, it would, if they're able to make performance efficiency and power efficiency, they're going to be able to save a lot of money in the long term, and in the long term be able to provide better cash flow from operations to their investors, right? So I want to say the new solutions that Meta announced are pretty amazing, and it continues to show that, hey, they are a leader here in this AI tech market. Maybe they might not be doing it the same way as maybe some other players, but they definitely have the engineers, the software, the hardware to be able to withstand against the giants. They're also focusing on developing new next-gen data centers, and these data centers are going to be AI optimized design. They're also going to be supporting like liquid cool AI hardware and a high performance AI network connecting thousands of AI chips together for data center scale AI training clusters. And this is one thing, right, that's really affecting the AI server market right now, is all these chips get heated pretty quickly. So right now, a lot of companies are trying to find solutions on making it better in forms of the environment, in forms of cooling these hardware, right, these semiconductor chips. Some companies like Meta, we can see, are kind of pushing this liquid cool. I do believe that's going to be the best move for now. Obviously, that may change in the future. But again, overall, we can see that big tech is continuing to develop chips for their own purpose. We've also heard of Microsoft, right? I don't have it here, but we've also heard of Microsoft developing their own chips for certain AI workloads, being training, being inference, or some other portion of the AI workload place. So when we hear about things like this, I do believe a lot of semiconductor investors might be worried. Hey, if we're seeing a huge competition growth here, is this bad news for Nvidia? Well, I do want to say the answer is yes and no. I want to say yes because it does kind of bring up the place where Nvidia is now going to start to see a lot more competitors in this space. The reason I say no is because at the moment, and obviously this can change, at the moment, these chips are just a specific workload chip. And that's the big difference between NVIDIA and their chips. NVIDIA's chips are meant for general purpose, and they can be used for almost anything, while these specific chips are only meant to be done for one thing, or meant to be used for one thing. In the earnings call, there was actually an analyst that asked the management of NVIDIA, hey, how do you see this competition coming into the market, and what are some of your thoughts? And they kind of mentioned that, hey, competition has always been very, very strong in this market. They have startups that are really, really well funded, and innovative startups, and countless of them all around the world. They also have competition from existing semiconductor companies, and they have competitions from cloud server providers like Meta, like Microsoft, like Google, like AWS, which are working on internal projects. And they do mention that, hey, they have been mindful for competition, but NVIDIA's value proposition at the core is they are the lowest cost solution. They are the lowest total cost of ownership solution because they provide a full stack answer for a full stack problem. So while maybe if you're only using NVIDIA's chips for inference, then they might not be the cheapest solution, right? Because that's not their purpose. Their purpose for their chips is to attack a full stack challenge. And when you need them to do multiple things, and you do need them to do multiple things, that's where you're going to go out and build and buy some of these expensive products from NVIDIA. They do mention that, hey, they have engineers, all of this, they have to engineer all this software, all these libraries, all these algorithms, and just kind of the designing of itself is going to be very, very expensive. The second thing that they mention is that utilization, which is the amount of work these chips can do, is vastly different. The versatility that NVIDIA's general purposing chips give them is a complete different market where we see some of these semi-custom chips being used right now. There was another question out here that kind of breaks it down even more. And Jensen, during his earnings call, did mention a little bit of how this specialized chip argument falls apart right now. Obviously, in the future, that might be different, but right now, he does mention that at the end of the day, things like inference is only represents 25% of the data. You still need to do things as pre-processing the data, post-processing the data, security, decoding, and all kinds of things like that. So while these specialized chips are only being used for 25% of the data, you still need some other chip for the other 75% of the data. And again, that's where Nvidia right now benefits. So at the moment, Nvidia does seem to kind of have their eyes on competitions, but and it can definitely be something to keep an eye out for the future. But at the moment, they do mention that thanks to their strength of all their products that they have developed in forms of infrastructure, in forms of software, in forms of libraries, in forms of large language models, they are confident that they are way ahead of competitors right now. So, as an Nvidia stock investor, I personally wouldn't worry right now from big tech giants. But if one is looking to kind of get into some form of stocks that can definitely benefit as big tech players continue to design their own chips, I definitely would say to look at these two companies. The first one is Cadence Design System, ticker CDNS, and Synopsys, ticker SNPS. These are two companies that provide software which are used for the designing of semiconductor solutions. And we can see here from Nvidia, from Meta Platforms, they do mention that over the next decade, they will see increased specializations and customization in chip designs. So if Meta's going to do it, I'm pretty sure Microsoft is going to continue to develop their own chip. Amazon's going to continue to develop their own chips, and Google is going to continue to develop their own chips. And if they need to develop their own chips, they're most likely going to come to one of these software companies. So obviously right now the semiconductor market is hot. So personally, these are stocks that I would do more of a dollar cost averaging opposed to a big bulk buy. But it's two stocks that I definitely believe investors should keep an eye on, especially as we continue to see big tech players innovate in the semiconductor market. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.